Well, thank you folks for being here tonight. I'm Nancy Rose Dufford. I'm the Executive Director for PEN, the Pasadena Education Network. And Susan Schwartz is our Program Director. And so we're happy to see you tonight. We're happy to see some of you we saw on Sunday at our little happy hour about open enrollment. And I'm sure we've seen some of you on tours, and hopefully we'll see more of you on tours. Before I get into the program, Rob asked how is PEN different from PUSD? So I'm going to do a quick overview of what PEN is, and then we'll move into our program. So PEN is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are separate from the school district. We are a network of more than 2,000 parents who support and send our children to the public schools. We were founded in 2006 by a group of parents who were looking at schools. They were preschool parents, and they were being told that they couldn't send their kids to PUSD schools. And so what they decided to do was go to visit schools, meet with teachers, administrators, and what they found is that there was a lot of good things going on in PUSD. So they formalized the information and formed their own nonprofit organization where we share information, accurate, up-to-date information with parents about Pasadena Unified School District. We work specifically in 3 spaces. We help parents as they're looking at schools for elementary and secondary, kind of find the right schools for their family. We also train parents once students are enrolled in the school district so that they can be more effective volunteers, because we all know the more parents are involved, the better it is for kids. And then we also work closely with district administration to make sure that they understand how parents are thinking about things and they consider parent voices in their decision making. So we are separate from the district, but we do work closely. We believe that we can have the most impact by being a collaborator. And so that's kind of where we are. If you learn anything tonight, that being said, we hope you'll make a donation to PEN, because we are, like I said, a separate organization. So tonight, we're going to be talking about PUSD's open enrollment process, and that's the school choice. So we're not going to include charter schools or private schools in our conversation. If you're interested in those, you need to talk with them to find out their process. What I'd like to encourage you to do is to wait until the end of the presentation to put your questions in the chat, because I do cover a lot of information, and so there's a good chance that your questions will be answered. So Susan is going to screen share. Okay, so as you know, PUSD now has transitional kindergarten. Can we get the next slide, Susan? Yeah, there we go. Great. PUSD now has transitional kindergarten, and that's for students who are 5 years old between September 2nd, 2024 and June 2nd, 2025. That will change next year, so that for the 25-26 school year and beyond, all students who will be 5 from September 2nd to the following September 1st will be eligible for TK. So some of you are probably looking at TK, some are looking at kindergarten, some of you may be looking at open enrollment for secondary school, whether that's middle school or high school. We often get asked this question, so I'm going to put it out there in the beginning, is that what if your child's birth date fits in with with first grade, but you want them to be in kindergarten. So in other words, you want to hold them back a year. And what I will tell you is that the open enrollment application system does not allow you to select a grade that's other than the actual grade where your student's birthday aligns. So that if you want your student to be in a different grade than what their birthday aligns with, you will need to fill out an open enrollment application selecting the appropriate grade. And then you can contact the school district, the enrollment office, or Dr. Shannon Malone, who oversees elementary education, to see whether you can change. Typically, they like students to start the school year, and then once the school year starts, if the placement isn't correct, then they'll work with you about changing it. Okay. So PUSD is an open enrollment school district, which means that families can submit an application to attend a school other than their assigned neighborhood school. So before deciding to participate in open enrollment, we encourage you to visit your neighborhood school. Most families in the district do attend the neighborhood school, and you just might find that it's a good fit for you. If you don't know what your assigned neighborhood school is, PUSD does have a school locator, and you can either go to the open enrollment page on Penn's website and click on the school locator link, or click on the important links on PUSD's website. Now, what I've done here is I've entered my address so that you can see what the page looks like and what your results will look like. Here it shows that my elementary school is Webster, and then my middle school is Elliott, but it also shows Marshall as a preference zone, and I will explain preference zone a little bit later in this presentation. And then my high school is Pasadena High School. So that gives you an idea of what that looks like so that you can find out your neighborhood school. And the reason that's so important is that there is no one right school for every family. Hopefully some of you were at our Choosing Elementary program, or that you've read through some of the information on our website. But that gives you an idea of what information is available to you to make your decision. So on our website, there are fact sheets about each school. There's parent contact information so that you can talk to a parent whose children attend the schools that you're interested in. As I said, most families do attend their neighborhood schools, so we encourage you to check that out. But if there are other schools that you think may be a better fit for your family, then you'll need to participate in open enrollment. Again, please keep in mind that there is no one right school for every family, because every family has different values and priorities. So you might prioritize a special program, or arts, or sports, or science, class size, diversity differently than your friends might. So you'll want to think about those things as you're making your decision. Okay, so what is open enrollment? Again, it's a school choice random lottery process where families submit an application to attend a school other than their school of residence. So in order for your child to enroll in any of the dual language immersion programs or Marshall Fundamental Secondary School, you must participate in open enrollment. So even if you live right next to a school that has a dual language immersion program, you still need to participate in open enrollment. Also, current 5th grade students who expect to participate in the Advanced Math Academy program should submit an open enrollment application if Sierra Madre Middle School or Octavia E. Butler Magnet is not your neighborhood school. Although typically students enter DLIP in kindergarten, if you have a student who is fluent and wants to enter a DLIP program at an upper grade, you can also complete an open enrollment application. This includes students who are coming from a DLIP program in another school district. Now, all students who are entering the DLIP program will have a language assessment, and that includes students who are entering at the upper grades. Okay, so transitional kindergarten for TK, students who are eligible for TK may participate in open enrollment if they want to attend a TK program at a school other than their assigned neighborhood school, or for the Spanish or Mandarin TK program. For next year, San Rafael is the only school that will not have a TK program. But again, if you want to participate in a dual language program, you'll need to submit an application through open enrollment. Once you're accepted at a school for transitional kindergarten, you can then stay at that school through 5th grade. So with the exception, again, being San Rafael. So if you're enrolled in the DLIP TK at Longfellow and you want to stay at Longfellow the following year, you do not need to participate in open enrollment. But if you want to switch over to San Rafael, you would need to participate in open enrollment. And we can get into, if you have specific questions about that, we can answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so what if your neighborhood school is an arts, STEM, or STEAM magnet, or the International Baccalaureate program? So if you're assigned neighborhood school, then you can just register online for those programs. You only need to submit an open enrollment application if the magnet is not your neighborhood school, or if you want to participate in a dual language immersion program that is located at a magnet school. So for example, if Altadena Arts is your neighborhood school and you want to attend the French program, you will need to submit an application. But if you want to participate in the school-wide arts magnet program, you don't need to submit an application if that's your neighborhood school. And that is the same thing for Jackson and also for Longfellow. Okay, so this is the details on how the open enrollment lottery process works. So after winter break, PUSD will post projections for a range of available seats at each school and for each grade level. You'll be able to list every school that you would prefer to your assigned neighborhood school on your open enrollment application. So we always get this question, what school should I put first? And the answer to that is you should put the school you want to attend most first on your application. There's no way to game the system since you can list every school that you prefer to your assigned neighborhood school. Then here's how the lottery will work. If your application is number 10, that means that your application will be the 10th that will be placed. The system will try to place you in your first choice, your second choice, and so on until one of your choices has space for you. If every school you've listed is full, you'll be placed at your neighborhood school. You'll be notified of your placement, and the information will also be available on your open enrollment webpage on February 16th. If you are placed at your first choice school, you'll accept your placement and register online for that school. If you did not receive your first choice placement and you want to remain on the wait list for your preferred schools, you will accept your placement, and again, you will register at that time. Later, if you get one of your higher choice preferences, PUSD will transfer your registration to your new school placement. You must accept your placement in order to remain on the wait list. If you don't accept your placement and register, you will automatically be withdrawn from the open enrollment process. So on the date, when you see where you're placed, you need to do something. If you don't do anything, you will be dropped from the process. If your student is already enrolled in PUSD, registration instructions will be emailed to you once you accept your placement. Now, this process is also explained on PUSD's website at pusd.us/register. Now, this is a sample of what your page will look like. Oh, I want to just say one other thing before we get into this. When you're completing your application, there's a place for you to type in your address. When you start to type in your address, it should autocomplete. You must select the autocomplete address in order for the system to read your address properly. So as you're typing your address, click on the autocomplete address. Okay, so the messages link on the top right will show the emails that have been sent to you. And the next slide, Susan. Okay, so this shows Jack's application and it shows where he's been accepted. So this is what you will see. And what you'll do is you will go to the accept button and select that. Now, just so you know, your neighborhood school will not appear on your application as one of your choices. So if you're thinking that you were going to select your neighborhood school, it won't be there. That's how you'll know that the system has read your address properly. So for me, that would mean when I'm filling out my application, all schools will show up except for Webster. Sometimes I feel like this sounds very complicated, and when you're actually in it, it's not so complicated. And this is a copy of the email that you'll receive, or it'll be something similar to this. The second lottery is for families who missed the first lottery. And the second lottery takes place between March 4th and March 8th. So if for some reason you end up out of town, your computer breaks down, something happens, you can't submit an open enrollment application, there is a chance for a second lottery. And the same process would take place in that you would go in, you would select the schools that you prefer to your neighborhood school. The number of seats will be adjusted before the second lottery based on the number of families who registered after the first lottery. And then families will remain on wait lists for their higher preference school until a week before school starts. But again, you must register in order to stay on the wait list. Okay, families will be notified as spaces become available at their preferred schools until the week before school starts. So once the first lottery is done and you're on the wait list for your higher preference schools, you'll be notified throughout the spring as spaces become available. It's very difficult for us to give you an idea of what your chances are of being accepted into your top choice, but I will tell you that last year, only 4 students who entered the first or second lottery and stuck with the process through the end were not placed in their top choice. With the exception of Sierra Madre Middle School, all middle and high school students who participated in their lottery into their first choice. So we can't guarantee the same results for next school year, but if you stick with the process, you will likely get into one of your top. Okay, so again, this is just to review. You need to participate in the open enrollment process if you want to attend any of the dual language immersion programs or Marshall, the Math Academy, if Octavia Butler or Sierra Madre Middle isn't your neighborhood school, the high school academies at schools other than your neighborhood high school. So for example, if you live in the PHS area and you want to attend the Health Careers Academy at Blair, you would participate in open enrollment. But if you want to attend the Law and Public Service Academy at PHS, you do not need to participate in open enrollment. You would just sign up for that when you register. And then any other school or program that isn't your neighborhood school. Okay, so I mentioned neighborhood preference before. So Marshall, Field, and San Rafael do not have attendance boundaries. Field has the Mandarin program, San Rafael has the Spanish program, and Marshall is a choice-only school. That means that no one is assigned to those schools. As a result, those schools plus the DLIT programs at Altadena, Jackson, and Longfellow reserve 50% of their available seats for families who reside within what is called a neighborhood preference zone. You do not need to indicate if you are in the preference zone on your open enrollment application. The system will recognize that. However, in order to get the neighborhood preference, you do need to list that school as your first choice. In the rare instance that there are more students in the preference zone than there are seats available, families will also then roll over to the general lottery. So you'll get a second chance actually to get. How many seats will be available? The short answer is we don't know. But projections are made based on enrollment trends, historical information, and the number of siblings who enroll. This year, the projection will be a range of seats, and the number of seats available for the second lottery will be based on the number of students who registered from the first lottery, and then any other adjustments that the schools think are necessary. So we encourage you, if you're going to go to your neighborhood school, that you register after the first lottery, so that way the schools have a more accurate idea of how many seats are available. So what do you need to register? You'll need your photo ID. You will need your child's most recent immunization and vaccination record. You'll need verification of your student's date of birth. So that can be a birth certificate, a passport, adoption papers. You'll also need verification of your address. So that can be either your property tax bill, your mortgage statement, a rental agreement, your utility bill, just one of those. And then for secondary students, they will need a transcript. You can do this online, but if you prefer to register in person, you can call the school to schedule an appointment to go in there to complete your registration. PUSD has priority in sibling registration. That took place from October 24th to November 13th. I include this information in here because you may have a younger sibling that you'll be able to sign up for sibling enrollment. There is also program priority enrollment. And so that means that once your student is in a dual language immersion program, they do not need to do open enrollment again. They can just register during the priority enrollment between 5th and 6th grade and 8th and 9th grades. And that would include Willard's International Baccalaureate Program that goes directly to Blair, Altadena Arts, goes to Elliott Arts, and then to Muir's Arts, Media and Entertainment Academy, and Washington STEM goes on to Octavia Butler Magnet and to Muir's Engineering and Environment Academy. If you happen to miss those dates, you can request to fill out a sibling registration, and hopefully there will be space for you, but there won't be a guarantee. Okay. And then what if you live outside of PUSD boundaries? So there are a number of students in PUSD schools that do not live in Pasadena, Altadena, or Sierra Madre. You can submit an interdistrict permit starting March 25th. You will, however, need to be released from your home district in order to attend a PUSD school. So you should contact your home district to find out the dates that they will release you and their process. If you are an employee of the city of Pasadena or a PUSD, you may participate during the regular lottery. During the regular lottery time, you do not need to wait for the out-of-district families. Typically, school districts will only release students if the student is going to attend a program that is not offered in their home district. Sometimes you can also get released based on employment or childcare, but that's totally up to the district that you're trying to be released from. Okay. Then for more information, here are some places you can go. Two other things I'll mention before we get into questions. One is twins. If you have twins and you want them to be in the same school, they need separate applications, but put their school's preferences in the same order. And then when one is accepted, the other will be pulled in. And at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions.
And Nancy, do you want to just let the people chime in? How do you want to?
You can anybody who wants to speak can, or if you're more comfortable putting it in the chat, that's okay too.
Okay, there are a few questions already in the chat. I'm now going back to look and see what those are. All right, hold on. Okay, so Victoria just pointed out that because Altadena Arts doesn't have a French transitional kinder, if a child attends the English transitional kinder at Altadena and wants to go into French for kindergarten, they would need to go through open enrollment for that French kindergarten.
That is correct. So right. Same thing, if you're at Jackson TK in their English program and you want to go into kindergarten for dual language immersion, you would have to go through open enrollment. So you cannot just change programs.
Okay, here is a question. So daughter currently at Blair, which is not our neighborhood school, wants to move to PHS, but we don't want to lose her spot at Blair if we don't get into PHS. In other words, I guess the question is, should they just put PHS, or should they put PHS and then put Blair as a backup so that if they don't get a PHS, they are able to stay at Blair? I think that's the question.
I believe they can just put PHS because they're still registered at Blair. You're not withdrawing from Blair.
That makes sense. Okay, let me move down here. Oops, let me see. Okay, can you clarify what would happen if you selected decline? Would it mean I want to leave the, hold on, the lottery, or would it mean I decline the offer but want to stay on the wait list?
If you decline, you will be taken out of the lottery. You have to accept your placement in order to stay on the wait list.
Let's do this. How many schools will we list? You can, I think Nancy mentioned this, but you can list as many schools as you prefer to your assigned neighborhood school. So correct. It could be one more, it could be however many there are, it could be 13, I guess, in the case of elementary schools. There's no limit. Okay, let's see.
I see. What if I am accepted at my first and #1 school, but change my mind and would prefer my second choice? Oh, you're out of luck. You would be, yeah, your placement would be at your first choice school. I mean, you could enter the second lottery and list your second choice. But you cannot remain on a lower ranked wait list.
Okay, let's see, moving down here. Okay, Question about why TK is not being offered at San Rafael next year.
They don't have space for it. It's purely a space issue. So for students who are at Longfellow or Jackson in the Spanish TK program, if they want to go to San Rafael, then they could put San Rafael as their first choice, but they should put the other Spanish programs as their second and third choices to guarantee that they keep their Spanish.
Oh, your sound kind of went out at the end there. Could you just repeat the last part of that, Nancy?
They should put all three schools to guarantee that they will have a spot in Spanish kindergarten.
The next question is, we are out of district and entering kindergarten next year. If the child has never been to school in their home district, in this case of Baldwin Park, do we still need to ask our district to be released?
Yes, yes, you do.
And then, okay, so if our child goes to Altadena Arts, for example, which is not our neighborhood school, and do we then automatically get into Elliott? There's a couple parts to this, so that's the first part. You want to answer that?
Yes, yes is the answer to that.
But they have to request it as a program priority. In other words, if it's not their neighborhood school and they want to go on to Elliott and they
Then
haven't already,
then you would register during priority registration.
and if they
if you
miss
wanted to
that
continue.
window, they
It's
would.
probably not going to be a problem, but yes.
And then the other part of the question or comment was for high school, if they wanted to switch back to their neighborhood school, I'm assuming you don't have to do open enrollment, and that is correct.
You don't have to do open enrollment, but you should do that before school starts, because once school starts, it's much more difficult to switch schools.
Okay. If there are wait lists after the first lottery, why is there a second lottery?
For people who missed the first lottery, either they're new to town or they just didn't have the dates, or they decided their plans changed. So it's a second way for parents to get.
Okay. And then Bryce said he has a question, but he said it would be easier for him to speak it than type it. So go ahead, Bryce.
Sure, yeah. And I think you explained this. I'm just trying to make sure I understand it correctly. So say I put my 1 and my 2 in during open enrollment, got assigned my 2. I'd click accept. And is it automatically assumed that I would still want my number 1 and then would be assigned a seat? There's not like, okay, I'll accept number 2 and just go for it.
Okay, if you decide that you just want to stay with your number 2, then you can just register and stick with that. You don't have to stay on a wait list.
Okay.
If you want, if you change your mind.
I see.
Want your
But
number 2 or number 3 school.
I see. But there's an option somewhere in there to say like, okay, put me on wait list. I'm sorry if I missed it somehow.
There isn't.
Or it's just assumed.
It's just assumed, but you
Okay.
don't have to accept it when that happens.
Okay.
So in other words, if they come to you later, you registered at your number 2 choice and they say, we have a space for you now at your number 1 choice, you could decline to take it and just stay at number 2.
I see. Gotcha. And then eventually, if there was a seat, they would get in touch and then I would officially register.
If you decided to accept
number.
that higher choice preference
Yeah.
later.
Gotcha.
You would not have to re-register since you already registered. The district will just move your registration to the
Okay.
other school.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Right. Good question. I think that's all the questions that we have in the chat. Okay, someone had asked, I have a rising high school student that wants to attend PHS. It's not our neighborhood school. So then you would go through the open enrollment process and list PHS as your first choice, correct?
Correct. And if they wanted to do one of the academies there, you have the option of selecting that also.
Okay, there's a question. Is this the first year that those from outside PUSD, out of district residents, do not go through open enrollment?
No. Out of district people have always had to wait until after resident students are placed.
So we would be an
Nancy, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Susan,
Go
it's
ahead, Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah.
I'm unclear because the slide showed that if you were outside of PUSD, that you contacted the Office of Open Enrollment after second open enrollment, not that you went through second open enrollment.
No, March 25th is for people who are outside of Pasadena, Altadena, or Sierra Madre.
Okay, and that's after second open enrollment.
Correct.
That's after that second
it.
lottery. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so here's the question is, we would be an interdistrict family. If we are able to get released, then we can't enter the lottery until the 25th of March. What happens if we don't get placed in a PUSD school but now have been released from our district? Is that a possibility?
You know, that's a really good question because it seems like it's sort of this magical that how does everything fit together? What I would suggest is that you contact the Office of Enrollment after the second lottery and because based on, I'm not sure what program or school you're interested in. They may have a sense of whether there will be spaces available for out-of-district families.
Right, and I think so. I just Shannon Mumolo, our enrollments and permit office director, is with us tonight. So
Oh, is
I
she?
said,
Hey,
feel free to
Shannon.
unmute and chime in if you have something to add or a clarification to make.
Turn your camera on, Shannon, and come answer this question.
There we go.
Well, you won't get my camera on, but I'm happy to answer the question. If someone's released from their district of residence, they're released to a district as a whole, even if they initially asked for a particular school. So if for any reason the school that they were hoping for isn't available, they're still released to the district and we can offer placement where space is available. Or if, they only had one choice in mind, your home district essentially still has a place for you in a school. So even if you request to be released and you are released, if your plans later change, your neighborhood school in your home district should always have a place for you.
Bryce, you had another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking at here. I'll put the link in the chat to the placement rates chart that you all put together, which is really great. I was just on the last two columns, one is number first and second lottery participants waitlisted at close of open enrollment. Then the next column is number post-lottery participants waitlisted at close of open enrollment. And I'm just, what is the difference between those two? I can't understand.
There are people who maybe move into town after the second lottery, or they just decide after the second lottery. And so they just say, can we get on the wait list for this school?
I see.
It's late. It's people who are coming in during the summer oftentimes.
I see. And so a lot of seats have been claimed by that time anyway. So gotcha.
Right.
Cool. Thank you.
Next question on here I see is, so if I'm on a wait list after the first lottery, I do not enter the second lottery as well. That is correct.
Correct.
What are the chances to get a permit to be released from my district? People keep telling me I will be denied. Shannon, you wanna, you wanna field that one? You have more
Sure,
experience?
yeah. Every district is different and their reasons for releasing students could vary. So the best thing to do is make sure to check your emails and look for any communication from the district. If for any reason they deny your interdistrict permit request to exit their district, they will give you instructions for how to appeal. So you should follow their appeal process and you must follow their appeal timelines. Very often families successfully appeal. And if for any reason your appeal is denied, you can always appeal to the Los Angeles County of Education.
Luca,
All right.
no, a esta hora ya no.
Oh, we've got somebody.
Hola,
Somebody needs to
Hello?
move here.
I can, let's see, maybe.
Can you
that's-
hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I accidentally muted you, Irene. Do you had a question?
Ante va, mamá.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, okay, I was actually the one who asked the question about the chances to be denied. I called already my district, and the only option for me to apply right now is if I work in Pasadena. I work in Highland Park, but I'm looking for a dual program, which is not in my area. I'm in LA USD, I think is the district.
Hmm.
They told me to apply directly to the county, because if I apply to my district directly, the only option it's work related, and I do not work in Pasadena.
LAUSD is one of the few districts that doesn't have an internal appeal process. So that's correct. You can appeal to the Los Angeles County Office of Education, and you can call the Office of Enrollment, my office, for support, and we can help you with instructions for how to do that. Typically, the denials right now are for people who are applying for this school year. They have not opened their interdistrict permit application window for the 24-25 school year yet. So they won't approve any permits until they have that window open. But we do have many students attending PUSD who are from LAUSD. So if you need assistance with interdistrict permits, it can be complex. The best thing to do is call the Office of Enrollment and we can help you.
Great,
let me
thank
just-
you so much.
Let me just add that I will be sending out a follow-up email with some of the links and phone numbers that we've mentioned here. So if you signed up for this program, if you registered on our website, we have your email address and you'll get that follow-up email. And if for some reason you are showing up here tonight and not having already registered on our website, please just drop your email address into the chat and we'll make sure that you also get that follow-up email. Okay,
I had a question.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my family would like to have our child go to a dual immersion school, and we were in your session yesterday, Susan, and I believe you mentioned something about the IEP and all that. So we would also be looking into the IEP process, and I think you mentioned that depending on the needs based on that IEP and what have you, dual immersion potentially may not be a good fit, depending on all that. But in terms of timing and all that, so we would initially apply through the enrollment process. Yet, from what I understand, the IEP process would start when the school starts. So if for some reason we were to actually get into a dual immersion school and then start the IEP process, and then through the IEP process find out that it may not be a good fit, how would that, or would we be ruled out of like our second choice and all that? So would we just be automatically enrolled in our home school?
It's a really good question. And Shannon, do you want to say something about that? That situation where someone is waiting for an IEP?
Absolutely. There are absolutely students who have individualized education plans that are enrolled in dual language immersion programs. So if you're interested in a dual language program as your first choice, I would recommend that you rank the schools and programs you're interested in just that order. only an IEP team can make a determination as to whether a program is the best fit or the most appropriate educational program for a student. And in terms of like, if the IEP team were to determine, this program may not be the best fit for the student, they would look at all options that could be the best fit and make that decision as an IEP team. So my best recommendation is, if your first choice is a dual language program and that's what your family's interested in, then you should select that program first and rank your choices in your preference order.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 8 o'clock, and I'm just going to drop a couple of links into the chat with a very short, I promise it's very short, program evaluation survey. There's a version in English and one in Spanish. It's really helpful to us to get your feedback. So if you can take a moment once you're ready to leave, or before you leave, to click on that survey and fill that out, that would be really appreciated.
Are there more questions?
Hi, I actually have a question. My name is Arabelle. So if I have a Spanish speaker at home and he will be in TK, and I want to enroll him in Jackson, does the school take into consideration that like we're native speakers like Spanish? I'm aware that I need to
Schools
participate in the open enrollment.
When you fill out the open enrollment application, you'll have the option of indicating if he's a native speaker or an English speaker. And they try as much as they can to balance the classes, because ideally in a dual language immersion program, you want half the students to be English and half don't say he's a Spanish speaker if he's really not, because because they will assess the student, and then if they find that he's not really, would not be able to come in on the English side.
I'm sorry, you were cutting off for the last few words.
If he were not an English, if he was not really a Spanish speaker, he would not be able to move over and come in as an English speaker. So just be realistic if he's a Spanish speaker. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Right. All right. Any other questions? So let's see. Thanks for coming, Victoria. So we will send out a follow-up email. We have recorded this meeting. We're going to process the recording and get it posted along with the slides, and then we will send a follow-up email by early next week at the latest with links to the various resources that we mentioned. And I see some of you have already put your emails in the chat, and I think most people also signed up online. So we will do that, and you will also get our Penn News, which comes out on Sunday evenings and just lists the upcoming school tours, along with any enrollment deadlines and other key items of interest to the school parental community. So look for that on Sunday night.
And if you have questions along the way or need assistance, feel free to reach out to us.
I do have one more question.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So for the open enrollment, it's a link, and it's something like Mint or
School Mint.
School Mint.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when part of the reason why I wanted to join this is because I was a little confused, but you guys cleared that up about the neighborhood preference for Marshall, because I am within that, but I understand now that you guys said it's only through open enrollment. So when I did, when the date, I think it's today for people that are like live within the attendance boundaries, but and then now I know why it's I'm not able to. But when January 9th comes out, will it have my student? Because it says something like your student is not, there's no students on your, like my son's name isn't coming out, even though I know it's like my email's connected to him. Does that make sense, the question?
So your student is already a student in PUSD? Is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you shouldn't be able to fill out the application yet. The applications are not available yet.
Okay, so that's why it's not showing him. So my concern is that if I want to make sure that when January 9th comes around and I go to fill out everything, that it'll be updated. So you guys haven't updated it or set it up yet.
One thing to just keep in mind is that, and I think somebody had asked this, I don't know if we answered it. There is no, it doesn't matter when during the open enrollment window you submit your application. So as long as you get it in before the deadline. So if you try on the 9th and you run into a problem with the application process, then you can go and contact Shannon in the permits office, in the enrollment and permits office, or you could try calling the school or the registrar. So it's not going to hurt you that you can't do it right away at 9 o'clock in the morning on January 9th is what I'm saying.
Okay, so it's not that kind of open enrollment, like there's time, like you don't have to rush
Right.
to.
All the
It's a
applications that
random-
come in during that
Okay,
period are randomized and taken in a random order. So that's the lottery part.
okay. Thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. Right.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Welcome to PUSD.
Right. Did you have another question, Irene?
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you all on tours.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have
Thank
a good
you.
evening. Thank
And
you.
please do take a moment to do to do this survey if you can, the evaluation of the program. It's much appreciated. Thank you. All right. Well, there we go. Thank you, Ada.
Nancy, it's Victoria. Can I confirm something just so that I'm completely aware?
Of course.
If a child or if a student has gone through open enrollment into Altadena Arts and they want to continue to Elliott, they need only register at Elliott. They don't
During the program priority time.
during
They
the
apply
program
at
priority.
Schoolment.
Say it again, Shannon.
Sorry, just to clarify, so even though it's in the past it was called priority registration, they actually submit that preference and that request through Schoolment, just like you would a lottery application.
Okay, so they should not not do that, because I think that there is some confusion now that they could just continue on and then register at Elliott, in August of their 6th grade year.
If they miss the program priority deadline, they can still submit during the first lottery phase if it's not their neighborhood school, and we still honor it.
Okay, but either way, they need to know that action is required on their end. It is not a direct pass through, because I think the slide makes it feel like it's a pass through from Altadena to Elliott to Muir.
Okay. So you want that clarified.
Yeah, I think if
Are
I,
you getting a sense from people that you've talked to that there are people who are, I mean, apart from what's in our slideshow, we should clarify what's in our slideshow, but you're saying that
I'm getting
there's some
questions
confusion?
about, yes, I think because of the exit of the principal that was over both schools and the notion that it is no longer one school, two campuses, and
Oh.
instead it's sister schools, it has really thrown a wrench in the communication plan.
Interesting.
Or understanding plan, I should say, because I think we were all moving in a direction that would have allowed for it to be more seamless for those that had open enrolled into Altadena and wanted to continue to Elliott regardless of whether it was their neighborhood school. So
Okay.
We can make it almost seamless. We just need to know who wants to proceed to move to Elliott. So we can do like a parent outreach meeting at Altadena for fifth grade
in fifth
families
grade,
to make
yep.
it clear.
Okay.
But anybody who missed application, I wouldn't worry about it. If they do registration instead, we'll call them and let them know what they need to do. We can support families so that everyone who wants to make the transition can do so smoothly.
As always, you are awesome, and I thank you. I just try to be clear in my own head so that when I'm on a tour and it comes up, as it inevitably will, I know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's so important. All right. Well,
Good
thank
to
you
see you
for
guys.
asking the clarifying questions.
Yeah.
No worries.
Very valuable.
Well, at least parents don't anymore have to upload all the documentation anymore, right?
That's
know, if you-
correct.
Okay. Let's see. Did we miss anything else? Michelle or Rachel, did you have any questions before we sign off here?
I did have a question, but I think I probably should email someone, because I know the time is getting away from us.
Well, you could go ahead and ask, and if it's more complicated, we can follow up.
Oh, okay. I just had a question about, so my son is in pre-K at Altadena right now, and I do believe next year he'll be 5 in July. So I do believe he'll be able to go into kindergarten if I'm not mistaken. So my
Right.
question was, I want him to go. What my two choices is Don Benito and Altadena with the dual immersion. So on my application, I will put Altadena and Don Benito, whichever one I want to choose first. And then
Correct.
so
Yes.
in the event that my son doesn't, well, let's just say he get into one school. So I want to make sure I had this correct. You said hit accept, or is it register? Which one that keeps you still on the waiting list for the other one? I'm sorry.
It's
You
the
do-
wording is a little confusing, but go ahead, Nancy.
You do both things. You accept and then you register.
And so let's say you got your first choice, you would accept and register there, and then you're done. Let's say you got whatever you listed as your second choice, you would hit accept and register there, but you would still be waitlisted for that first choice. So you have a place that's your second choice, but you may be notified at some point before school starts saying, hey, we've got a place for you at your first choice. Do you want it? And if you do, then your registration could just be then transferred over to the first choice school.
Okay, great. Thank you, because I was confused. Like, I know she said something, because I was just doing bad time. So I'm trying to do bad time and listen in and do dinner. So I'm trying to
It's a
like
lot.
do a lot of multitasking right now.
Rachel, did I meet you at the APC meeting last
You
month?
did. That was me and my son
remember.
Genesis.
We were talking. That's right. All right. Well, glad to see you. And I think you either one is going to be a great choice. So you'll decide which one you like best.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.